I just got a notification.
Yeah, we're live right now, so we'll get started officially at 10 o'clock.
Mo hajimatta no?
Uh-huh. Let's see if anybody's here. Thank you for those of you who have arrived early. We're going to wait officially until 10 o'clock before we get started. Just want to get this. We're going to get everything set up and make sure everything's working okay.
Be careful with your slippers.
Oh, okay. All right, it is 10 o'clock and let's go ahead and get started. Come on over here, honey. I'd like to welcome everybody to our live stream. Let's get Ginger over here. My name is Ryan, and
I'm Ginger.
so again, thank you so much for tuning in to our live stream. Yesterday, which was Saturday, Ginger and I met up with some friends, and we went clamming for Pismo Clams. Now, we did not go to Pismo Beach or the Oceano area. This species is Pismo Clams. So we got our limit, 10 each, and Ginger was on fire. She got some really nice clams, some big ones. The conditions were really good yesterday with a negative 1.5 foot tide. So we like to plan out when we go clamming to go on those days where there's a really good negative low tide, because it just increases your chances of getting good clams. And so consequently, since we did go out on a really good tide, we were able to pull out some really big ones, and we got our limits very, very quickly. So that was yesterday. We caught 10 each. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to shuck these clams, clean them up, and then we're actually going to cook them. So we'll go through the process of processing these clams, and then we'll fry some up for tacos. And that's one of our favorite ways to enjoy them. Let's see.
So the clams were different sizes. We had some legal ones, which is the legal size is 4.5 inches in diameter. But some of the larger ones were up to over 6 inches. So those were the larger ones. And I think those were, you're able to have access to larger clams when the negative tide is greater. So it just, the ocean pulls away more, exposing more of the areas where normally they'd be underwater. We really can't access them on some of the lesser tides. But the legal sizes are 4.5, and those are fine. But it was nice to see some really large
Right.
clams yesterday.
One of our friends says, like, well, how old are these clams? They grow about a half inch to 3/4 of an inch a year. So, like some of these big 6 inch clams are, about 12 years old or roughly thereabouts. So it's really nice to be able to get some of these clams, these larger ones. Now, up in the Pismo Beach area, there are a lot of clams available, and they've been on the comeback for several years. And this year, they're at legal size, and people are uh, able to go there and get their limit within just a short time frame. Okay, so we're going to be starting the process of cleaning up these clams. And so let me explain to you before we get started what our little system is. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of these into the sink, which I have some setting aside over there. And I'm going to then open them, and I'll talk about how I do that. And then the clams will come over to Ginger, and Ginger will clean out the remaining sand from the clam with this ocean water. So these have been sitting in ocean water overnight, and we're using the same ocean water to clean out the remaining sand. Now, during that time, that sand, a lot of the sand has been expelled, but Ginger is going to, she's going to clean out the remaining sand. And then from here, they'll go back over to the counter, and then we'll shuck the clams. We'll basically remove the flesh from the shell, and we'll show you how we do that. From there, we'll package them into freezer bags, and then we'll place those in the freezer, and then we'll save the clam juice, and we'll show you how we do that. And finally, I will show you how we cut and clean the clams and remove all the soft organ tissue. All right. So Luna is down here. She's making her presence known. But let me go ahead and turn the camera around and get started with the process.
Say hi. Okay, let's go wash up.
Okay, so here you can see 6 clams. They're sitting in the sink. So we're just going to do 6 because, we're not going to waste your time by doing all 20 clams. So in the interest of time, we're just going to do 6. And you can see that they have um, opened up and they're relaxed. Now, like one of these is closed, but these other ones are relaxed. And that's what you're looking for when you set them aside like this, because it's much easier uh, to uh, open them. So I'm going to start with this one that's open right here. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera so you can see this. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the. Okay. So welcome. I see we have some people joining us. Thank you for joining us here. So again, this is a live stream where we're processing these clams, and then we're going to fry them up a little bit later. All right. So in opening these clams, I find the best way to do that is to prop it up like this. Okay. Now there is an adductor muscle here and here on the inside. So basically what you're doing is you are cutting through that adductor muscle. And the way I've always done it is to use a fillet knife. And I really want to emphasize the importance of safety here, because if you are not in control of your knife, you can hurt yourself. So just make sure that you're safe at all times. Now, I find the safest way to do this is to use a fillet knife because it is low profile and it doesn't get wobbly when you go to open the clam. Okay, so what I will do is I will place the knife into the crack with my other hand on the end of the knife. So I'm using that as a way to leverage the knife and go straight down into the clam. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, so there you saw, as soon as I put my knife in there, the clam closed up. Now, if that clam closes up before you're able to make that cut, your knife is going to be stuck in that clam because that muscle is very, very strong. Okay, you can see all that water that just got released, and then I'll go to the other side and do the same thing, and there you go. Okay, so there is um, how you open the clam. Now from here, I'm just going to place it into the pan. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these before we go to ginger. Okay. All right. So there's another way. The way I just showed you is the way I've always done it, but there's another way to open these clams, and some of you might find this to be easier. When it's open like this, you want to get down to the adductor muscle, which is right there, and just use the tip of your knife and just go straight down and cut it. So you would just go down like this and cut that muscle. Okay, so now that muscle's cut. You go to the other side and do the same thing. Okay, so that's another way to do it. And here is the open clam. I'm just gonna, now all that water that was released by the clam is just ocean water, so we're gonna discard that. Now this one will be interesting. I'm not sure if I can do this one. Okay, maybe I can do it. This one, this side's open. So I'm gonna put my knife in there and then quickly go down. Again, you wanna be very careful. Okay, so I got through that muscle and then go to the other side. Again, go straight down. Okay. Okay, so let me just show you the muscle that I was cutting through. So here's a good example of a clam that's been opened. So basically what I'm doing is I'm cutting through that muscle. That's the adductor muscle. Very powerful muscle because when that contracts and it closes the shell, it's impossible to open. I mean, you'd have to take a hammer with a knife and drive it through the shell because it's just so powerful. So that's why you want to do it quickly and safely. So that's one muscle you're cutting through, and here's the other one. Once those are cut, then you can open it up and you can see the rest of the flesh. Now, this clam, of course, has these adductor muscles, okay? And then we have the mantle, this membrane here, and we have this, which is the foot. This is basically, okay, so these sit in the sand like this. If the ocean is out that way, this ligament is facing up. Okay, the foot anchors itself into the sand and it uses it for locomotion. You know, it doesn't move very much, but it does use it for movement.
And rebearing itself.
Right, in rebearing itself. The other part that you should be aware of is this. There's a siphon here. It's been cut through, but there's an in-current and ex-current siphon. So,
It's like two tubes.
right, and that's what Ginger will use. She'll make sure that that is clear. Okay, so that's kind of basic anatomy. Let me go ahead and do the rest of these. Again, this one will be interesting. Let's see if I can get through this one. Okay, that was a little tougher. Okay. Okay, right in here you can see some sand, and that's what Ginger is gonna clean out here in a second. This is a big clam here. Has a kind of an odd shape to it. So we can get through there. Now, you know what, this one's got to relax some more. Honey, can you have me another one? So this one is closed too much. I don't want to even attempt to open that one. But see this one? Take a look at how relaxed it's been sitting in water. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use that technique where I just go straight down like this. Okay. Go down like that. All right. And there we go. This is a nice big clam. Look at the size of that. Okay, so I've opened the clams. We're going to go ahead and shift over to Ginger now. Ginger's going to clean out the remaining sand. So let me swing this camera over to Ginger. Okay.
Okay, can you see inside?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you could see on the bottom of the ice chest, there's sand on there. When we put the clams in yesterday, there was no sand on the bottom of it. So all of this has been expelled by the clams overnight. The sand is going to be it gets into the clam, I think, by two methods. Now, I'm not a marine biologist, but this is just from my observations. So I think the siphon or these two tubes, there's one that it takes in seawater, which it basically is feeding itself, right? It's a filter feeder, so it will feed on plankton or other little things that are floating around, whatever they eat. So that is going to also pull in some sand, and that one will go through its internal organs, and then it expels it out through this other tube. So there is going to be sand um, on the inside of the clam internally, and also that's where you may find in these tubes. So I will make sure that these tubes are cut, because sometimes they don't get cut in half when Ryan is opening them. So if it's not open, I will use like a little knife to open that up just to make sure so I can access it. So there's going to be sand sometimes in this tube. Also, the other way sand may get into the sand is just through the general opening of the clam itself. So when it's using its foot to dig itself back into the sand or orient itself, that's why sand will be a lot of times around this mantle, this edge here. this membrane, and a lot of times it'll be way up underneath by the back of the hinge, and on the inside of the siphon and around this abductor muscle. Um, it's always the sand. It seems to be always around this abductor muscle where the siphon is, and not so much where the other muscle is. So one thing I noticed that you don't want to do is run this under the tap water. Fresh water seems to degrade the the flesh, and it's really it messes with the texture of the clam. So basically, I'm looking underneath here, and I'll put it back in the ocean water and just give it a good swish. This one here is pretty clean. Some of them are like sandier than others, but so I'm basically just kind of moving things around to see that there's no sand in that area, because nothing is worse than, you know, you put so much effort into go clamming and get it, and finally finding a legal one, putting it in, getting up to this point, and then not clearing it of sand, and then when you go to eat it in whatever you're making, just biting into something sandy, and that grunt, that gritty thing, it's just not a pleasant thing. So anyway, I give it a good rinse in ocean water, and then I just put it on a different sheet to kind of drain the rest of the way. So there is some sand in this side here. I'm looking in the back, and again, just a quick rinse. Looking to see now, this tube here is not cut, so I will just take a knife and cut this open so that I could see that there is no sand in there. And looking underneath, and it looks pretty good. Okay, let's try the other ones. So this one here has a little blob of sand over here, so and let's see. The siphon is all clear, and it is. So you could see there's sand. This is the part of the internal organ. You could see this dark line here. That's all filled with sand. So that will be scraped away when Ryan cleans it out. And see the sand over there. So if we didn't rinse this out, that could potentially end up in your dish, and that's not a fun thing. Okay. So it's pretty good, but this I think even if it's not sandy looking, I do like to give it a good swish, because sometimes I'll miss seeing it. So the benefit of these clams being larger than, like, say, cherry stones or something, is that the smaller clams, you're eating the whole thing. So you're eating all of the internal organs and everything. So there's a higher chance that those are going to be sandier than these big Pismo clams, because the Pismo clams, at least we're able to, rinse out the inside of the clam, and also the fact that we're scraping out all of the soft tissue to get rid of the internal sand that's going to be in there. But inevitably, a lot of times the little ones, you're not, smaller, different type of species of clams, you're not going to be able to get the sand out. So I think though those clams tend to be sandier. But these clams look pretty. They're pretty clean. They had a little bit more sand in it, but looks good. This is a bigger one. The last one we have here. So looks good. All right. And you can see the size difference of the clams. This is a legal size clam, of course, but look at the size difference. It's pretty significant, the size of the shells and everything. Anyway, that's what we have done. We're all done with at least cleaning out the sandy part of the clams.
All right, let's go ahead and shift over here. Thank you, Ginger. All right, so those are the clams that Ginger just rinsed out. So the next step in the process is to shuck the flesh. So we have a couple bowls here. We're going to work on this together. Okay. And we're going to do this over a bowl. So as we shuck these clams and remove the flesh, the juice will drip out of the clams. You'll see that. And so that's the juice that we're going to be saving. We're not saving any of this excess ocean water. We're saving the actual juice. So let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you start,
Okay.
Ginger, and then I'll.
So the
Good.
okay. The areas that are basically anchoring the flesh to the shell are these adductor muscles. There's 4 of them. There's a section way back in the hinge area, and then I think there's a muscle right here as well. So I like to, I'll either use a butter knife or even my finger, and I just kind of loosen. I always start with this mantle, right? The mantle part. And so you could see that this area is kind of stuck to the adductor muscle, stuck to the shell, and I just loosened it up, and it's also like kind of stuck underneath this little shelf here, and it comes off pretty easily. You could use, a butter knife, but in this case, I'm trying it with my thumb. And see, this is the area right here that it is anchored to, and then that's it. So and look how clean it came out. So again, I'm just I'm going along it's my nail scraping on the shell. Okay. So it's this adductor muscle right here. There's another one on this side here. And basically, and then it's just now, I don't know if you
Right
can
there's
see
fine,
that.
huh?
And I'm just loosening it up, and look, it just slides out.
All right, very nice, very clean. So let's set these aside. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I just like using a butter knife. Ginger is really good at this, so she does it both ways. So I just run with a butter knife. I just run the knife under the mantle, that, and I go all the way across, and just go underneath that adductor muscle where it attaches to the shell, and just cut it away. Go to the other side, cut that muscle away. Okay, do the other side. Again, run the butter knife under the mantle. Cut to the muscle away from the shell. So as Ginger said, it's those 2 those 4 locations where the adductor muscle attaches to the shell. Those are really the only parts that you have to cut away. Otherwise, it's just scraping, and it just comes right out. It's as easy as that. Okay. And again, we're collecting the meat or the flesh in these bowls, and we will also show you the juice that collects at the bottom of the bowl.
From here, we like to freeze these in Ziploc bags. I will use quart-size bags. I like to put 2 clams into one bag, and I like to freeze just from here, freeze it, not so they're not cleaned, and then we freeze it, and then when I take it out of the freezer and I'm ready to use it, then at that point we'll clean them. I guess you could clean it first and then freeze it. Oh,
Yeah, that's a lot of work though. Okay. So we always freeze our clams and our fish if we catch any fish on the boats. The only exception would be like today when we're making these fried clams. The main thing is that you bring it up to a high temperature to kill off any possible bacteria or parasites, and that's definitely the case with fish. And so we freeze these. It's just one of the best practices that we like to um, do whenever we catch fish or clams. So we're going to do 2 of these today, deep fried. So we'll set a couple of aside, and then we'll package up the rest. So like I said, we're just doing 6, just to respect your time. We'll do the rest of them when we finish the live stream.
Alrighty, this is it. All right.
Okay, so the next step is Ginger's going to package these up. So, go ahead and move this pan out of the way.
Excuse me, Luna. Okay, so let's see. You're going to use 2, correct?
Right.
So I'll just give you those 2.
Okay.
So I will. Can I have that towel?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. So I have taken Ziploc bags. These are the quart size. I just dated it and labeled it. And I will put 2 into the bag. And I think I'm going to put like a larger one and a smaller one in there. And let's see. Okay. And then I will try to get as much air out as possible. Seal it up. Luna. Alrighty.
Luna's not getting her attention right now, so she's letting us know.
Okay. And then I got as much air out as possible, and then I'll just lay these into a bigger bag, and I'll just stick them in the freezer.
You can see down at the bottom of the bowl is this juice. This stuff is great. So Ginger uses this in soups.
Yeah.
And so we'll save that. But I'm going to go ahead next. I'm going to clean up these clams and cut away the soft organ tissues. All right. Now, one of the most important things in this step is to make sure you have a sharp knife. So make sure that you sharpen your knife so it's nice and sharp because you have to cut through the softer tissue. So if I lay this clam out like this, okay, this is the way it came out of the, let's see if I got a good view of this. That's the way it came out of the shell. Okay. And get a little closer. All right. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to spread it out with the foot facing down. Okay, so this was the foot like this, just like this. So I like the foot facing down and spread out the meat. So I have the adductor muscles here and here. And the first thing I do is I cut right down the center. Okay, that's why you want to have a sharp knife because it's soft. And then you have you have these two halves. Then what I do is I scrape away the soft organ tissue. And before I do that, I like to place a little paper towel down to the side, and I'll show you why. Okay, so you take your knife and just basically scrape that soft tissue away. Now, all the rest of the flesh is essentially muscle, whether it's the mantle, connective tissue and muscle. We're just cutting away this soft organ tissue. This all of this sits in what's called the visceral mass, basically just the cavity where all the organs are.
So one thing you want to be careful of is to try not to like break open that little tube with I guess it would be intestine, the tube with dark matter in it, because that's all sand,
Mm-hmm.
and that can get back into the meat again. So
Right. Okay. So again, we're going to cut away the soft tissue, scrape it away. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take all this soft organ meat and just set it aside like this. Okay. All right. So here's one half of the clam. And these little dark pieces you can cut away. Here's the other side. This in-current siphon, since it's exposed to the environment, is exposed to the water, that gets tough, so you can cut that away if you want. Okay, and just clean it up. I think that's good. Got most of it out of there because it has to be, can leave a little bit behind. Okay, I think that's good. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut this for our fried clams. So I'm going to cut like this. So I have, okay, so here we have one adductor muscle with some of the mantle. Scrape that away. Okay. And here we have another half of the adductor muscle attached to the mantle. And I'll set that aside. Okay, this is the foot. So depending on the size, scrape away some more of that tissue there. Yeah. Depending on the size, you can either leave this whole, but I think I'm going to cut this one in half. Okay, so there are 2 nice pieces of meat there. And let's see, let's do this one. Again, I'm going to cut this in half this way. And then cut this. Little dark meat there, so we'll just cut that away. Okay, that's good. And let's do this one. This one looks pretty clean. That one's good. And then we're going to take this piece. I think we'll leave this one whole. Maybe not. Yeah, let's leave that one whole. All right, so there's that. We do one more. Show you again. Again, this paper towel is used to hold all that soft tissue that I cut away. So we set this aside. Let's see, where's the trash? It is. Okay. Okay, so one more time. Here's our flesh. We want to go foot side down. Spread the meat out. Okay, and cut right down the center. Okay, and then we're going to scrape away that soft tissue. Okay, this one looks good. All right, so with this one, we're going to cut this in half here. So there's an adductor muscle with the mantle, and there's another piece, and that piece of foot we'll leave together. Okay, again, we're going to scrape away any remaining soft tissue. Flip it over this side. You see black sections, you can just scrape those away. Okay, so again, I'm going to cut this adductor muscle with some of the mantle and do the same here. Okay, and this piece I think we'll leave intact. All right, so let me show you what we have here. Now, if you were to eat these sashimi, which I highly suggest you try because raw clams are just delicious. You want to make sure that you really, cut away all the soft tissue because that's not very palatable. And you want to make sure it's nice and clean before you serve it. And also you want to make sure that you have frozen them before you process it. Okay, so here we have the clam. These are 2 clams with all the soft tissue removed. And we're going to fry these up. Okay. Okay, go ahead, honey.
Yeah, this is the clam juice that we collected. Where am I here? And I take a little sieve and then strain it off. And then So it's not a lot of yield, but it is. This was from what, 6 clams, and we have 20. So we get a little bit of here, and then I just kind of close it up and then put it in the freezer, and I'll save it when I make a clam chowder. So
All right. Let's see. I think we're done with the processing. I think we're going to go next to frying these up. So let me just check my notes here, make sure we're covering everything. Let's see. All right. Let's go ahead and move the camera over here. So next, we're going to fry these clams up, and this is just a fantastic way to enjoy Pismo clams. And one of the great things about Pismo clams is that they're so meaty, right? There's a lot of meat on these clams. They're not like little cherry stones or cockle clams. These have a lot of meat on them, so they're very, very enjoyable to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and put my apron on, and I'm going to start my my oil right now because it does take a little bit of time to heat up. So while that's heating up, I am going to prep the clams to go into the oil. Apron on. Now, with these fried clams, you can eat them straight away, which we do all the time. But today we're going to have them for with tacos and tacos, and they're just a unique and super delicious, yummy taco. Okay. Other ways that we eat the clams is, like I said earlier, sashimi, raw. Ginger makes these fantastic stuffies, which we have a video on. And by the way, if you want to know how to prepare these clams, we have several dishes that we've made with clams, and it's going to be in the fishing and clamming playlist on our channel. So I would encourage you to check it out. We also have other information there regarding how to catch clams, when to catch clams. So the playlist is kind of like a one-stop shop for everything that you need to know about Pismo clams based on our experience. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, as that's heating up, I'm looking for a temperature of 300 and above 350, like closer to 375. So I'm going to put this in there and keep an eye on the temperature. Okay. All right, so I have my clams here. I'm going to go ahead and make my wash. The wash is going to be an egg and some buttermilk. Okay. I also have done clam fritters, and they're delicious. The fritters are a little more involved because you have other ingredients that you have to prepare, so it's a little more time consuming. The fried clams are a lot faster, but if you want to try the fritter recipe, I would recommend it. They're very delicious. Ginger's also made, she makes her really delicious clam chowder, and we have a video on that. Okay, so there's the egg and buttermilk wash. Now I'm going to go ahead and go a 50-50 mix of flour to cornmeal. So we've been kind of experimenting with the dredge. I've done all flour, I've done all cornmeal, and this 50-50 blend seems to be the best. So let's go ahead and mix this all up. So again, cornmeal and flour. So what I would recommend if you ever decide to do this is, number one, be very mindful of the temperature of your oil, okay? And make sure that you only put a few in at a time, maybe 3 or 4. Don't put a lot in because it can get out of control if you're cooking at high heat. The whole point of cooking at high heat or frying these in high heat is to quickly fry them before they get tough. Because if you leave them in there for too long, they will get tough. That's the one thing about Pismo clams. You have to be um, you have to be careful not to cook them for very long. So I'm going to go with a wet hand and a dry hand. So I'm going to glove here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put the clams inside the egg wash and just mix it up. Another tip when you're doing this is try to have everything done before your clams go into the fryer. Okay, because if you're trying to do both of this at one time, it's very challenging to try to balance it all. So try to have everything done in advance. Okay. Okay, so I like to put these on a separate platter. And I'm keeping an eye on the temperature. If the temperature gets above 350, I'll just go ahead and turn it down until I get everything ready over here. Okay. The cornmeal gives, as those of you who cook know, it gives it a nice crunch. We like to have these with, like, I personally like um, what's the vinegar called, Ginger?
The malt vinegar?
The malt bit. I love malt vinegar, and Ginger will sometimes make a tartar sauce. That's fantastic. Or we can use an aioli sauce. For today's tacos, Ginger will explain that a little bit later. But we're gonna, after these are prepared, we're gonna assemble our tacos on little street taco sized tortillas. Keep it on the temperature here. Okay, so the temperature is getting close to 350, so I'm going to turn this heat down, okay, until this is ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and get the rest of these clams in the wash, and then over to the dredge.
That's a 50-50
Yes,
mix?
this is a 50-50 blend of cornmeal and flour. What are some other ways, Ginger, we've prepared these? We've done fried. These are the fried clams, very popular. The fritters, your stuffies, clam chowder, of course.
I think the next thing that I'm going to attempt is like doing a linguine with clam sauce.
Yes, great idea.
I think that's on the menu for next week.
Ginger also makes like an Asian style miso soup, and she adds the clam juice, gives a great flavor, and then she'll chop up the clams, and then not even cook them. Basically, when the miso soup is ready, she pours that into a bowl, and then just essentially garnishes it with the clams.
The heat from the hot soup will cook it, and it will still leave the clams tender, but it'll be cooked.
Yes, and that is very good. So we found a few ways to enjoy it, and we're always looking for new ways. Like a couple of weeks ago, we tried ceviche, and that was new, that was different, but we did enjoy it. It was great on chips. Okay, I think the clams are just about ready to go into the oil. Okay, so again, having all this done in advance of frying them, it really is important, I think. Otherwise, you're trying to do too many things at one time. So prep is key here with these fried clams. And you have to be, again, very mindful of the temperature. You want to be safe. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that temperature back up. Okay, so I have a pan over here to drain them. Also, you want to have a splatter guard because since there is water in the since there's water in the clams, you will get splattering. Okay, let's see. Can you read that, honey? I can't read it.
Yeah, it's over 350. It's
Okay.
like 360.
All right. So what I like to do when I fry this is have the splatter guard in one hand and put these in. I'll put like 3 or 4 in at a time, and we're going basically for about a minute, not much more than a minute, very fast. What happens when you put these in? I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll go with 4. What happens is the temperature of that oil will go down a little bit because these are cool, and so I'll wait and for the temperature to get back up. I'm just always monitoring that thermometer. And again, we're just going very, very fast. Again, you want to be very careful when you're working with such hot oil. We're looking for a golden brown, no more than about a minute. Okay, so that's been less than a minute. Take a look at that. Honey, could you salt it? So when they come out, it's always good to have a helper to salt the clams. Oops. Okay. So the temperature went down a little bit, but not much because we're just doing 4. So I'm going to go straight in with some more. Always kind of lay these down away from you so you don't get any splash up. Oh, yeah, let's just do that. Maybe one more. And I like to keep this one. I like to keep turning them. Okay, so again, we're just going for about a minute. The temperature usually dips a lot more when we do this because we're taking them out of the freezer and they're cold. See, the temperature did go down by a few degrees, so I'm going to let that go up a little bit more. And so in the meantime, let's take a look at these clams here. You can see just how beautiful they are. They have gorgeous color, really good crunch. And so again, you can eat these straight away with some lemon, uh, tartar sauce. Like I mentioned earlier, I like them with malt vinegar. But we're going to put these in clam or in tacos today. Okay, that temperature is getting back up. Yeah, the thing about a lower temperature is that you're not going to get that quick deep frying effect. So you want that temperature at least 350. Okay, temperature's back up. I'm gonna go ahead, put these in. This is the last of them. This is 2 clams. Okay, again, have your splatter guard. Be safe. Be mindful. Be mindful of that hot oil. I like using these long chopsticks. Of course, you can use whatever utensil that keeps you away from the oil. Keep those moving. Keep turning them. Just turn off that heat. Okay. One more to go. All right. All right, the fried clams are done. Turned off the heat. Okay. So let me give you another good look at these fried clams. These are just so delicious. All right, so we're gonna get set up over here. I'm gonna hand these over to Ginger and I'm gonna turn the camera around to show you how we prepare our tacos. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I've warmed up some street tacos, tortillas rather, sorry. And then this is some shredded cabbage. So we're just adding like 2 clams. Some cabbage. And you could use tartar sauce or you can, this is just kind of quick. This is the Japanese mayonnaise. And there's some salsa that I made. And there's a taco.
Okay, let me go ahead and prepare mine here. So, do we have the malt vinegar out? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my clams. And this one and this one. Okay, then I like to go. Okay, I like malt vinegar on mine. And I like this QP mayo. I love this. So I'm gonna put that on top here. Okay, and then I'll put some cabbage on there. And I'm just gonna go with that. I'm not gonna use any.
No
All
salsa
right,
for you.
no salsa for me. Okay, shall we toast and enjoy our clams? All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Take a bite here. Hmm. Super flavorful. You have that unique Pismo Clam flavor. Nice texture to the deep fried clams. This is very satisfying. Take one more bite. Mm.
Still very tender, crunchy, but the clams themselves are very tender.
All right,
Excellent.
so there you have it. And that's how you process Pismo clams and how you prepare them for tacos. If you want to see more on fried clams or anything else we do, please check out our channel and the playlist. All right, we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.